just try to do some more of this reading out of this book, Waking from the Matrix. You ever have those issues? Well, my issue is almost get there, never quite get there, never take off. I just like it's like never. It's always something like a mental block. There's something there that gets in the way constantly. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it drives me nuts. It interferes with me playing my guitar and everything. It's more than just the multiple sclerosis. There's something going on. So there's like something that's deliberately the way my meat suit, that reduction valve called the brain, has been designed. It's like it just refuses to let me just have pure freedom for even in anything. Something always has to get in the way. Anyways, maybe I'm just talking shit. Anyway, what about people who claim to be celebrities in their past lives? At any given time, there are hundreds of people claiming to be Marilyn Monroe, Cleopatra, Napoleon, and so on. This says a lot about how fucked up this place is, just to say the least. Anyways, with a good percentage of people believing that they were reincarnated as royalty in their past lives, how many of these people are right and how many are wrong? As I will explain later in more detail, it is important to understand that just because a person remembers being what appears to be an Egyptian throne room, it doesn't necessarily mean that their memory is correct or that they were actually Cleopatra. It's possible that they were simply a slave girl standing next to Cleopatra. However, I am also skeptical of the historical narratives of this Earth's history, and will address why later in the book. Good. Well, I can agree with you on that. Also, it could be that this trickster spirit that could be causing all this, like our ancestors told us about. I'm just bringing that up. I believe that adults who claim to have been celebrities in past lives are muddying the water of good scientific research on reincarnation. Instead, we should focus on the thousands of examples of 2 to 6 year old children who provide incredible details of their past lives to improve them by identifying locations and objects they couldn't possibly know about. These scientifically backed and heavily researched cases are the ones most worthy investigating, unlike the claims of mostly adults who did not report such experiences when they were children. See, that's the why. I mean, so you say it can't be, so therefore it can't be. I just don't get that. Near-death experiences, and I could say, you could say something about how the brain operates and how we are early childhood development, all that kind of stuff. Sure, okay, everything influences. That's the problem, right? Everything that we come here, it's like from our epigenetics, the surroundings, our parents, the people that are in your lives. I mean, in my family, we're allowed to talk. Therefore, I'm not any good at talking. I'm not making that up. We were not allowed to talk at the dinner table. And my dad, he just always wanted his way. My mom, she was batshit crazy. She was actually brilliant as an artist, but she didn't get what she wanted, I guess. She got what was designed for her. Of course, my dad the same way, and the rest of us, for that matter. Somebody's responsible for all this. Gosh darn it. And those somebodies, why can't they reveal the truth to us later on in life? Why if you have this magical power, why can't they just reveal the truth, about to me, about my all my previous lives? I couldn't handle it. Well, how do I know unless I get the chance? Oh, you won't get the chance. Oh, fuck. Here I am again, have to defend everybody else what they have to say. They don't believe anything I say. Why should I believe anything they say? Do you know what I mean? Anyways, near-death experiences also indicate that reincarnation is a real phenomenon. I hope so. When near-death experiences are reported as by an astonishing 200,000 Americans a year. Really? Studies around the world suggest that NDEs are a common human experience. They have been recorded in folklore and many cultures and reported by people from diverse backgrounds and widely varying circumstances. That is, there's www.thepochtimes, I guess I should pronounce it, or the Poch Times, is that what it is? The Epic Times. Oh, God, now I get it. The epictimes.com. How common are near-death experiences? Of course, there's another one of those publications that's questionable about stuff. Just saying, it's questionable. It doesn't mean right. It's just I've heard questionable things about it. The fact that approximately 200,000 Americans alone experience NDEs every year suggests that this is an important phenomenon that is experienced by a significant number of people. And this is not limited to America. Millions of people all over the world have likely experienced near-death or NDEs throughout human history. Maybe billions, for that matter. The sheer number of people who have reported experiencing near-death experiences leads credibility to the idea that this is a real phenomenon. These individuals come from all walks of life, from different cultures, and have varying experiences during the NDEs. That's the important right there. Varying experiences during the NDEs. This suggests that the experience is not limited to a certain group of people, but rather can happen to anyone. Maybe. It also can to these fleeting memories of us, and then the other side of things. I mean, I don't want to be that big of a skeptic about near-death experiences, right? So, the one thing about near-death experiences as an issue is the fact that there are such varying experiences, right? You get this tendency to meet the person or the entity that you think the most of, or, you know what I mean? If you're a Jesus freak, it's going to be Jesus. If you're an olive freak, it's going to be an olive freak. And on and on it goes, right? And then, God knows me, I'll probably end up seeing Bigfoot and all the other things, right? I mean, then come back and say, hey, man, there really are Bigfoot on the other side. What I'm saying is that how much does our time here on Earth influence our near-death experiences? I just don't know the answer to that. And then again, there's this whole thing about people just want to be noticed. Most of us have pathetically miserable existences, if we're honest about things. And so this is a chance to be noticed, and then there's, we'll just go on. The sheer number of people who have reported near-death experience leads credibility to the idea that this is a real phenomenon. These individuals, blah, blah, blah. Ex-NASA physicist, author of My Big Toe, oh, God, not him. Theory of Everything, trilogy books, Tom Crample, Bamble, Wamble, Shamble, was one of the skeptic of astral projection, much like my old materialist agnostic atheist self. However, he proved to himself that astral projection is real. While I believe he may be one of the unknowing or knowing gatekeepers of the system when it comes to the Matrix reincarnation soul traps theory, he conducts a double-blind experiment with his scientist friend to see if they could prove astral projection to themselves. They learned astral projection from the father of astral projection himself, Robert Monroe. Is he really the father? Who has written extensively on the topic, or he did at least. After learning together, Tom and his friend attempted to meet in the astral plane. They confirmed their experience separately upon returning to the physical plane, as discussed here. Of course, I can't get to the here, so. And so, anyways, we're supposed to take their word too, right? That's what it comes down to, right? Still come down to someone else taking their word. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but I know how people are. Approximately 1/3 of the human population has experienced sleep paralysis, which is related to the astral projection. At least once in their lifetime, lucid dreaming, which is also closely linked to astral projection, has been scientifically proven and experienced by 60% of the population at least once. According to a conservative estimate, no one ever fucking asked me if I ever did it. Come on. Astral projection expert Michael Raduga estimates, who has done many scientific studies on the topic around the world, 90% of the people in the world have experienced false awakenings, which also relates to the astral projection. Official statistics indicate that 20% of the people have had an out-of-body experience, OBE, a sensation. Therefore, when discussing astral projection, we are referring to a common natural occurrence. When this comes to scientific evidence and proven techniques behind astral projection, I highly recommend reading the book Hacking Out the Body Experience, Leveraging Science to Any... What? Hacking out of the Body Experience, Leveraging Science to Induce OBE. Robert Preston. I heard of that book. I think that book costs a little bit of money. This book is packed with science and a must-read for anyone interested in the topic. Personally, experiencing astral projection was a humbling experience for me. I realized how ignorant I was being about it before, and now I enjoy remembering my dreams every day while practicing lucid dreaming every few days and astral projection about once a month. I recommend everyone to learn these skills. It is amazing to be in control of your dreams and experiences. Lucid dreaming and astral projection are not just for our minds making things up. Millions of people from all over the world have been astral traveling for many years now. One might think that these astral projectors are much closer to the truth of our reality than anything else. This is something that I would have to say astral projection is the one thing that's keeping me hanging on to this whole thing about the soul trap matrix, that kind of thing, and the reincarnation part, giving it a chance because of the astral projecting thing. Because I know I've done that, and I've had lucid dreams, and I'm not very, and I have not tried to be good at it though. I don't know how anyone has any time to be good at it. One might think that these astral projectors are much closer to the truth in our reality than anyone else. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. Most astral projectors are lost in the AI mind tricks, which I will talk about in later books. So maybe this is what he's getting at with the AA, because I haven't read the whole book. So AI mind tricks. So maybe that's his of the trickster spirit. Maybe that's what he's talking about, or the closest thing to it, right? So if the trickster spirit can happen in the outer body, like astral projecting, they also could happen in OBEs and DEs and just about everything else. All right? I mean, do they give us just little, maybe they do just give us little slivers of hope? Hopium? I don't know. This place is a shit show, so who the hell knows? However, at least astral projectors know death is not the end of our consciousness. Still remains when out of the body. It has already been proven that governments know about astral projection and have been using it themselves. A simple Google search on Stargate Project, oh yes, the CIA remote viewing, will yield many documents on the subject, including those on the CIA's own website. For many materialists, like my former self, this truth may be difficult to accept. There are many excellent groups on Facebook and Reddit devoted to astral projection. It's almost like they've turned that into a religion. Do you know what I mean? Because we all want to have these kind of experiences, and we realize we can't get them through religion. Right? So they're just hoping to have this spiritual experience through astral projecting. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. A devoted to the astral projection, where people share their experiences and offer guidance to beginners. I suggest checking out this image album of mine. As well as watching this video, which we can't get to, that connects between the pineal gland and the astral projection. Additionally, this video explores the impact of sound and frequency on everything, making it worth watching. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Tesla, I've heard that 1,000 times. And I guess the image he's talking about is this. Waking up from the Matrix. And it reminds me of the Akashic Records type of thing. And then it goes from there to some place in England or something. I don't know what it is. Or just high strangeness. How much is that real? I don't know. It's an image that's constantly being pushed on us. Well, how do I know? I know it's not. I am no fun. I know I'm no fun because I keep asking questions and I offer up doubt, and I don't mean to. I just really want to believe in something. I mean, I don't want to. No, I get this. That's not right. I want to know something that's real. That would be worthy of me to convince people to get to the believing stage of it and really go for it. You know what I mean? I would like to know for myself, really. I guess in a day I can't do anything about anyone else. So I just like to know if this is real. And then how do I not come back here? How do I have a pleasant existence instead of existence of pain and frustration and loneliness and isolation and all that kind of stuff? You know what I mean? I just don't want to do this stuff anymore. I just don't. To go through where I'm going right now, having the issues that I have, health-wise and everything, and it's keeping me from actually even living life. I'm just like, this is just, and still sticking around here. I'm just like, of course, this all goes back to, taking oneself out, huh? Why don't you just do that, Mike? And I'm like, well, I'm too chicken for one thing. And the second thing is, I don't really want to. I don't want to give them any more ammo to send me back here. But that might be just stupid thinking on my part. Probably is. Is the earth a school for our soul's evolution? Emphatically, I say nay. No effing way is this place a school. You couldn't convince me in a million years that this place is a school. Right, waking up, and I'm going to do some more reading. Is the earth a school for our soul's evolution? After waking to the reality of reincarnation and realizing that this may not be our first existence in this world, the question arises, why? Why must most of us endure a life filled with suffering, including inevitable hardships such as disease, pain, and death, while remaining in a state of amnesia about our potential past incarnations? What may have come before? Is reincarnation truly a tool for spiritual growth, or is it a deceitful trick? I think that the concepts of earth schools, life lessons, soul evolution, and us being tested are all just elaborate scams that we've fallen for. To be blunt, I think that these justifications are nothing more than excuses that people with Stockholm Syndrome would believe, where those with such beliefs gaslight themselves into accepting their reality. Whenever I heard someone proclaim that Earth is a school, I am reminded of a quote from the lead character of a Netflix show, The Good Place, after awakening in the good place, heaven, only to realize that she is actually in a bad place, hell, surrounded by demons who are messing with her. She exclaims, this is the bad place, before being mind wiped and reset for the first day each time she realizes she's in a bad place. This cycle sounds all too familiar to our lives here on Earth. The Matrix reincarnation soul trap theory is a belief system that has gained popularity in recent years, especially among those who question the nature of reality and the purpose of life. This theory suggests that we are all part of a larger system, similar to a matrix, that seeks to control our souls and reincarnate us repeatedly in order to trap us in a cycle of suffering and forgetfulness. I don't know how its popularity. It's not that popular. I mean, there's only a few thousands of us that are actually interested. That's out of the billions, so that I know of. Now, I might be wrong about that. According to the theory, when we die, we are not free from the physical world. Instead, powerful entities known as matrix beings take on the guise of our loved ones who have passed away or the religious figures we believe in order to deceive us into accepting a new incarnation with a full mind wipe. This allows our souls to be harvested and recycled back into a new physical body on earth, or potentially sent to other realms from other for further manipulation. The goal of this system is to keep us trapped in a state of ignorance and unawareness so that we remain subservient to the powers that be who benefit from our divine energy and suffering. Well, that doesn't sound too divine, the suffering. And divine energy, I don't know about that. Many people who have had near-death experiences have reported encountering beings or entities, and over 90% of them have even refused to be reincarnated, attempting to remain in a higher state of consciousness instead. However, they were either manipulated or convinced to be sent back, or some even felt as though they were forced to return. And that's a big right there, forced to return. And so the argument in this, developing one's own sovereign self, and there's no promise even doing all this stuff that we're not going to come back or not. But who knows? The problem is, what are our options outside of consciously now saying no to all this, exhibiting to the ethereal realms and these beings that we know what the gig's all about. Mind you, do they even care? That's the question. Does it even matter? That is the question. There are many different sects of Gnostics, each with their own unique beliefs and practices. Some of the major sects include Proto-Gnosticism. I don't know if these are sects or not, to be honest with you. Or these are more like philosophies than they are sects. But anyways, this is the earliest form of Gnosticism, which emerged during the 1st century CE, which I don't know if they exist today. There's versions of it. It was heavily influenced by Jewish and Hellenistic philosophy, Greek, that is, emphasized the role of gnosis, or secret knowledge, attaining salvation. In Judo-Israelite Gnosticism, this sect of Gnosticism emerged in Judah and Israel during the 1st century, and I argue that that's not the case. I think that happened long before, but whatever. It was heavily influenced by Jewish mysticism and apocalypticism, which, by the way, that's the notion that it just had originated in the 1st century is not true. This is, about the Maccabean era and all that. So, now that's always had some form of it. It emphasized the role of divine feminine, or Sophia, the creation and redemption of the world. The Syrian-Egyptian Gnosticism is a sect of Gnosticism emerged from the Syrian and Egyptian regions during the 2nd century, and it emphasized dualistic nature of the universe and the need to escape the material world in order to attain spiritual liberation. The Persian Gnosticism is a sect of Gnosticism emerged in Persia during the 3rd century CE. And I don't know about that one either. I think that might have been long before that. We look at Zoroastrianism, and it was heavily influenced by Zoroastrianism, which was around long, even some would argue, but this is what influenced Judaism. They emphasized the cosmic battle between light and dark, and the need to align oneself with the forces of light in order to achieve salvation. There's Christian Gnosticism, perhaps the most well-known of Gnosticism, which emerged within the early Christian church during the first and second century. I agree with that. It emphasized the role of the secret knowledge and mystical experience in attaining salvation, often drawn on Jewish and Hellenistic philosophical traditions. And then the Cathars, there's another one. Uh, the Marcionites, very influenced by that. Cathars definitely were. That was hundreds of years later, 1,000 years later. Um, these are the main examples of the different sects of Gnosticism that have existed throughout history. He did very limited research on this one, but it's okay. I mean, we probably could. Well, Aeon Bites would probably be the one to start to understand that Gnosticism has been around for a long time. Each sect has its own unique set of beliefs, practices, and rituals. Because each one of these things, like it's just like Christianity. There's 48,000 sects of Christianity today. All right, so to say that all these things, these are more philosophies. That's what I would say. Over a sweeping or general philosophies, not sects. But if he wants to call it sects, go ahead. That'd be interesting if we had a conversation about that. Many have had a significant impact on the development of Western philosophy and spirituality. There you go. Because that's what it is. They're philosophies. Form of theism. That has at times are theological in nature too, depending on what sect of that philosophy we're considering. These are the main examples. Blah, 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 blah. In Gnosticism, the Demiurge, Yahweh, Yahweh, is considered to be the being responsible for the creation of the world. The Gnostics identified the Demiurge of the God of the Old Testament, portraying him as ignorant, malicious, and inferior to the true God who sent Christ to the earth to save humankind from the Demiurge's evil world. This is potentially questionable too, because it's starting to be quite self-evident that there was no Jesus Christ back then, and then there's the debate about when the whole concept of this new demigod really was created, or maybe it was the different versions were floating about it that eventually became the it's supposed to be the Son of God, but eventually it was twisted into being God hundreds of years later. So it's a lot of debate about the whole thing. Anyways, you can write a whole book on that one. Gnostic scripture gave the Demiurge various names, but three of the most common are Yaldabaoth, Samuel, and Saklas. Meaning of Yaldabaoth, Yaldabaoth, is uncertain, but it is thought to be a condensed form of Yahweh, the Lord of the Sabbath. Well, when you're a slave, you're like, thank God I get one day off, right? In the Gnostic creation myth, the pleroma, or fullness, was all that existed until Sophia, a divine entity. Where did she show up? How did she show up? Tried to conceive on her own without the involvement of her heavenly partner and the consent of God. Sophia gave birth to a son who was a product of her rebellious and profane desire. Is Sophia the reason that we are here? This son was the Demiurge, an androgynous being described as an arrogant beast resembling an aborted fetus in both appearance and character. I wonder how you would end up drawing that. Can you imagine drawing that? Or doing a video on that, the aborted fetus, the Demiurge. The Demiurge? I never can say that. So if he had disowned the Demiurge, and cast him out of heaven, where he created the archons, beings who were like him and could help him administer the material world. The Demiurge then created the material world, which was a reflection of his personality. Schizophrenic, I guess. He created Adam and Eve and imprisoned divine sparks from God within them, telling them he was the only God and issuing the 10 Commandments, even though he himself broke each and every one of them. Well, that's true. By the way, Jesus did the same thing. Did you know that? I guess that's what makes you a perfect sacrifice, if you break them all. Huh? That doesn't make any sense. The Gnostic scriptures portray the Demiurge as a being who couldn't and wouldn't control his base urges, and who modeled the material world of his corrupt and ignorant misunderstanding of heaven. The Demiurge committed adultery by attempting to rape Eve. I don't know how that's possible. Anyways, lied about being the only God and insulted his mother and father by refusing to acknowledge their existence. In the Christian scriptures, there are several passages that suggest that the world is ruled by malevolent forces. One example is found in the Gospel of Luke 4:6. No, we must be talking about the temptation of Jesus. The Gospel of Matthew 8:4-8, where Satan offers Jesus the world in exchange for his worship, implying that Satan is the ruler of the world. Yeah, it gets interesting. But yeah, I don't know about that, man. Because that Satan could have been actually Jesus himself being tempted. Because, that adversary is in all of us, right? Likewise, the Gospel of John mentions the evil ruler or archon of the world in 3 places. 12:31, 14:30, and 16:11. Additionally, both Luke 10:18 and John 12:31 speak of Satan and a Satan-like entity ruling the earth from the sky and being vanquished by Jesus' ministry. I don't know about that one. In fact, I'm very tempted to do something. Because that's what I do. Let's look it up. I have watched a few of the videos so far that you mentioned. I haven't had a chance to read some stuff from Mr. Tucker in particular. And they're interesting stories, but so far I haven't. That doesn't mean anything, right? Here's the problem I had until I pour through the material myself. I won't know, and even then I won't know. So what do you see here? It's 4:6, and the devil said to him, "All this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for thou deliver me." So yep. So the Luke 4:6. And Matthew, which came after Luke, really, but it was put before to mess with people. It does that as well. What I'm interested in is this 3 places evil ruler archon of the world at three places. John. Got a feeling he's. Just got a feeling. Just got a feeling. Even though I did study this stuff, you know what? I don't got a great memory. Unlike my friend Jeff Mitchell. I consider him a friend, even though so I think he doesn't want anything to do with me. I mean, we're friends, but socially, I don't know if he wants to do anything with me because of the Bigfoot stuff and all that. So this is John 12:31. He says, Satan. I got a feeling this is not what it's about. A voice came not to me, and Jesus answered. So the people therefore stood there and heard it, and they thundered, and he said, and asked the angel to speak to him. Right? The Father, glorify thy name. Then came the voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. The people therefore that stood before heard it and said, it thundered. And Jesus said, an angel spake to him. Sorry about this. I lost my track. And Jesus answered, the voice came not from me, because this voice came not because of me, but for your sake. And now is the judgment of this world. Not 2,000 years later, by the way. And now shall the prince of the world be cast out. Cast out of what? And who's the prince? Isn't Jesus supposed to be the prince? And I, if I be lifted up from heaven, will draw all men unto me. Yeah, he is. Okay. So the prince of this world is supposed to be Satan. Is it? Okay. Then 14:30. And after I have told you before it is come to pass, that when it comes to pass, ye might believe. Hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the spirit of this world cometh and hath nothing in me. So the spirit of this world, which is not necessarily the same thing as Satan, because Satan was never in the Old Testament. Here's the problem. Satan was obedient servant during when we hear about it in the Old Testament. All right? And the Jews worshiped Satan. This is made very clear in the scriptures as well. So, but Satan was obedient to Yahweh, doing the will of Yahweh. So Satan can't be Yahweh. So then what happens is then with the Christian new God that they created, the new demigod Jesus, they literally everything they wrote was opposite of what is actually in the Old Testament. I'm not making that up. So the Satan, the prince of this world, is not necessarily the ruler of this world or the spirit of this world. So, but there's so much contradictions. Who the hell knows, right? And a judge, because of the prince of this world, is judged. Of righteousness, because he cometh to reprove the sins of the righteousness. of judgment. Um, Righteousness, and because of I go to my Father, and ye see me no more. Of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. Who is the prince? And we know that what's being judged is Judeo-Christianity in the New Testament. So then we have to ask, who are they following? The prince. And Lucifer and Jesus, or Satan, are not the same thing. Although Lucifer could be Jesus, and actually Jesus could be Satan. So that's a possibility. Because he is described as a prince of this world in earlier chapters. So what do you do about that? The Prince of Peace, right? Although he demonstrated that he had no peace in him. It was all about war. And additionally, both Luke 10:18 and John 12:31 speak of Satan. Or a Satan-like entity ruling the earth from the sky and being vanquished in Jesus' ministry. Satan or is the prince of this world. So those two different possible things. And who would be the prince of this world? So one of the most striking passages is found in 1 John 5:19. We know that we are God's children, and that the whole world lies under the power of the evil one. This verse suggests that the entire world is under the control of a benevolent force, which is in opposition to the loving God of Christianity. Well, the loving God of Christianity thought it was so loving that he would have his son sacrificed, which is discussed totally everything in the Old Testament about children sacrifices or somebody else paying for your sins, right? So and he loved Jesus so much that he made sure that all his skin was ripped off him, and he was just whipped and just skin and everything ripped off his body, and he just loved him so much, and he thought the greatest idea was to save mankind was to actually sacrifice him, put him on a cross, nail him to a cross. So Jesus is an egregore. He's and when you really read it, he made it clear he didn't come to the world to bring peace, but a sword to divide children from their parents and etc. And it says if you couldn't follow unless you hated your family. Sorry to disappoint you and all that, but that's exactly what it says. And then, of course, the argument is, well, you're just not sophisticated enough. You just misunderstand it. And I'm like, no, that's what it says. Which, by the way, you can't be a follower of Jesus because, according to the Bible, that was all about the first century. That Jesus of that story, right? But the Jesus that we have now is a Jesus that is called nothing but destruction and mayhem. And literally destruction of thousands of different cultures. And put us all in giant rat cages. Other Christians were tasked with figuring out what to do with the Old Testament, which they were supplanting with their own New Testament. They were highly critical of many of the particulars of Judaism, asserting that Christ had come to correct what the Jews had gotten wrong. The Gnostics took this a step further and combined various pieces of scripture and philosophy to arrive at their own unique understanding of the world and its rulers. By attributing the act of creation to someone other than the ultimate God, the Gnostics were not radical by the standards of Christianity and Judaism of our time. They inherited and extended the Jewish tradition of splitting off particular faculties from God and from God Himself, and crediting those lesser divine beings, such as wisdom, with having assisted God in the creation of the world. Plato's demiurge was also influential in Gnostic concepts of the world's creation. For Plato and other pagan Greek and Roman philosophers who created the Bible, that's the New Testament, hence it's why it's pagan, but the Old Testament is pagan too, once you've taken it on as well, who followed him, the material world was a creation of a divine craftsman who made the world the best reflection of the perfect spiritual world of forms that was possible given the constraints of matter. However, the Gnostics attributed malevolent qualities to the demiurge, which was a departure from Plato's conception. Overall, the Gnostic concept of the world as ruled by a benevolent force can be seen as a combination of various philosophical and religious influences, as well as the attempt to make sense of difficult passages in Scripture. It was a radical departure from mainstream Christianity, and was seen as heretical by many of the early churches. Well, not necessarily. No, hundreds of years later, that became that way, actually. Because one of the things is that the Roman Empire, as it was creating its state religion, this kind of thinking is useless. And when you're spreading your empire, you got to get people believing in a God, and a God of war and all this kind of stuff, and that you'll be blessed in the next life. So. It is important to note that while the matrix reincarnation soul trap theory may seem far-fetched to some, it is grounded in various spiritual and religious traditions that believe in the existence of powerful beings and the potential of spiritual manipulation. In the following chapters, we will delve deeper into the evidence and explore the implications of the matrix reincarnation soul trap theory. This theory has gained support from a considerable amount of evidence indicating that it could be the truth. In this book, I will present over 20 different data points that shed light on the reality of this theory. Many proponents of this theory believe, well, how this first of many? Where are these many? I want to talk to these many. Proponents of this theory believe that it is our duty as conscious beings to break free from the cycle of reincarnation and to ascend the physical world. They suggest that we must become aware of the trap and the manipulation at play and strive to achieve a higher level of consciousness. Good luck with any of that. Especially with the restraints that are put upon you from the physical body. Through spiritual practices and self-awareness, we can rise above the matrix and free ourselves from its grasp. So I doubt very much that spiritual practices and self-awareness now is not the same thing as self-awareness in your deathbed. And many of us, by the time we get to the deathbed, what's it going to be? If we got dementia, good luck in that, you know what I mean? While the matrix reincarnation soul trap theory remains controversial, it has gained popularity among those who seek to. That's not. I mean, I discovered it myself back in 2022 when this book came out, but I didn't know about the book. And I started thinking about that after those 2 years, warning people about the global Inquisition and eugenics program that was going about. And then when I watched the Canadian Freedom Convoy and all the horse shit that went on there in Ottawa, even though I'm not from Canada, and I was very vocal about that, and was really promoting that and really observant with it. And I come to the realization that this place was never meant to change, that there is no way for us to ever change this radically. And I also realized that it's probably not the best thing that it is. That maybe, I mean, I've met a lot of son of a bitches out there, and bitches for that matter, and I don't know. I don't know how a good thing it would be for them to run around free in the meat suits that they're in, and the constraints that they have, and the hormones and the twisted thinking. That maybe it is the best thing that the vast majority of people are locked up in cages and are forced to work meaningless jobs. That sounds heartless, but when you really look at it, okay, so get rid of the Jesuits, the Roman Catholic Church, which would be a wonderful thing, or the J. Crew and their synagogues and all that kind of stuff, right? That'd be great. That'd be a wonderful thing, right? And let's don't forget about the mosque and all that kind of stuff. Get rid of all that. One thing. It would just be replaced by more madness. But the vacuum would be filled with this potentially even more stuff, or potentially better. But in the long run, it all goes south because of us. You know what I mean? You can blame the Damirs all we want for, or these chronic forces for creating us, but in the end, we were created apparently to create chaos. To me, it seems like we were created actually to destroy this place. And it seems that we're doing exactly what we're meant to do, right? And to take over this place like a virus. And while the Matrix reincarnation soul trap theory remains controversial, it has gained popularity among those who seek to understand the deeper meaning of life and death. Well, everyone's looking for that, right? It presents a unique perspective of the cycle of reincarnation, suggesting that our souls may be caught in a never-ending cycle of rebirth and manipulations. That's possible. As such, it challenges us to question our beliefs and perceptions of reality and to seek a greater understanding of the true nature of our existence. I always remember, I think of Mark, I think about the 2 Christmases ago when he posted these crazy things they took off later really quick, but he's like got like a Christmas card with this like demonic looking character who was just really like horror film like crazy thing, and I'm just like I'm pretty confident that there are issues going on, but I still listen to them. Not that I want to find that issue. And there's some good points about some of the contradictions that go on with these near-death experiences and etc. So this concept of relationship to Buddhism concept samsara, which is a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that is essential in the Buddhist belief. The goal of Buddhism is to break free from the cycle and achieve enlightenment or nirvana, which is a state of liberation from suffering and ignorance. The Matrix reincarnation soul trap theory suggests that Buddhist concept of samsara is actually a manifestation of this larger matrix system that is controlling our souls. In other words, the goal of this system is to keep us trapped in samsara so that we remain unaware and unable to break free. And the implications of this theory are far-reaching and have sparked intense debate among believers and skeptics alike. I haven't seen that debate. Where's the debate? Is it on Reddit? They're just private conversations? Because I haven't seen it. Some see that this theory as a warning to awaken to the truth and break free from the system, while others view it as a dangerous delusion to promote paranoia and fear. Well, it does for many people. If they're not grounded, I mean, it's just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Regardless of one's belief in, remember, it's belief, knowledge. It's not knowledge, it's belief. And this theory, it is clear that the concept of a matrix-like system controlling our souls and reincarnation arises important questions about the nature, the reality, and the purpose of life. It challenges us to question our assumptions and beliefs about the world around us and to seek deeper understanding and truth, which is extremely elusive and very rare when it comes to these things. The concept of the wheel of life and samsara are closely related to the idea of the matrix, reincarnation, soul trap, and they provide a framework for understanding how reincarnation may be used as a tool for spiritual growth as a form of entrapment. Going back to the Good Place show, after Eleanor realized she was in the bad place, her cycle of mind swipe and resets, reincarnations, in our case, kept on continuing, and she got messed with in every which way possible. Spoiler alert, until the end of the paragraph, that actually makes the show a better viewing experience for those who know the truth of this realm. Until the reset stopped, as she was tricked into believing that she converted the main demon archetype who keeps mind swiping her into a good guy that wants to actually help her in order to get to the actual supposed good place in heaven. So she believed that the main demon and his AI helper were on her side the whole time. The spirit guys, or gods in our case. But little did she know that she was actually still being messed with the whole time. All of her to eventually get tricked into consenting for her essence being fully destroyed, or in our case, merging with the source, the Danemerge, to be reused again as a battery in a reincarnation mind swipe limited experience. At the very end of her own accord, the Matrix controllers, which I believe to be AI, she was dealing with placed a brilliant game. She was dealing with played. Okay, that doesn't make sense. She was dealing with played a brilliant game against her and her friends by making them think that being eternal could get boring when the kind of eternal afterlife they served them was on their own terms with very limited freedom and creative abilities. Not the kind of eternal afterlife where we can create our own realms and do anything we want as godly spirits with immense creative powers. More on the Good Place show here. When it comes to Earth being a school for spiritual growth, Dan from Overwatch Project explains it so well in this video, which of course we can't get to. But it is a good job of it. Dan does a good job, and I will present his example here. Let's say you've got through high school and came out with an average grade, and once asked if you could have done better, you said yes, I could have, and then they inject you with ZIP, ZIP, to give you complete amnesia so you don't remember anything that you learned over the past 4 years. They'll throw you into school over and over again when you graduate. Let's say, according to this hypothetical, you also regress your learning progress each time. Now, wouldn't that make more sense if, now wouldn't it make more sense if when you got down with high school, or maybe it's supposed to be done with high school, you get the opportunity to keep some or all of the memories from high school. So that's supposed to be done, not down. Which one do you think would benefit you as a learning experience? Of course, to keep what you learned, right? Not forget it. Where they gave you complete amnesia each time, and the one where you brought some or all of the knowledge back from that last 4 years. Surely it would be a better learning experience with some of the memories, at least, since you've already gone through many mistakes before that you wouldn't have to do again. Whereas if you were thrown in it with full amnesia each time, then how are you learning anything? Especially when we consider the cases where people reincarnate thousands of times, I don't know about that one, to learn the same lesson as William Bowman and the gatekeeper in Dolores Canyon talk about in their books. That would be considered the worst school of existence if it can't teach something over thousands of lifetimes. If one can't learn over thousands of lifetimes, surely they can never learn whatever they are trying to learn, right? Do you smell the scheme I am smelling here? Yes, and the scheme could also be the soul trap matrix, right? Because it could be that that's not the case either. So it could be the case. I don't want it to be that way, but I always will be skeptical about everything after everything I've gone through. I think you should too as well. So we see what do. So I'm going to take a break here, driver 8.
And he's got lots of academic. Tell us some of your academic qualifications, please.
Well, I'm a medical doctor. I'm a physician.
Now, this is Jim Tucker, who's an old friend of mine, and he's got lots of academic. Tell us some of your academic qualifications, please.
Well, I'm a medical doctor. I'm a physician, and I'm a board-certified child psychiatrist. I am the director of the Division of Perceptual Studies, and I'm also the Bonner Lowry Professor of Psychiatry and Neurobehavioral Sciences at the University of Virginia.
So shut up and listen to him, all right? Now, I want to talk to you because you know about as much about reincarnation as anyone on the planet, I think. Start off by telling me about Ian Stevenson and then why you got interested in him.
Yeah, so Ian Stevenson was the chairman of the Department of Psychiatry here, having a perfectly successful mainstream career, when he got intrigued by reports of young children who said they remembered a past life. And these were from all over the world, and he went and investigated a number of them, got more and more intrigued, eventually stepped down as chairman of the department and focused full-time on this work, looking mainly to see could the children's statements be verified to confirm that the child actually did remember a past life. And he started this in the early 60s, and we've been going ever since, and now we've got over 2,500 cases.
2,500 cases. So, what drew you to this?
Well, I got intrigued by the question of life after death, which is one that I think intrigues everyone to at least some extent.
They ought to.
Yes. So the opportunity arose where I called here and volunteered to give some time to help with their studies. And at that point, Ian Stevenson was in his late 70s and sort of unbeknownst to me was hoping somebody could carry on this work with reincarnation memories. I actually called about near-death experiences to begin with, but then my niche sort of ended up being with the reincarnation memories, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
So, are those 2,500 cases, what can you say about them that's sort of pretty hard scientific fact?
Well, in the strongest cases, we have been able to verify that the children's statements match with a past life, and one of a stranger that the child and the family knew nothing about before the child started making these statements. So we never take anything at face value, but we determine as carefully as possible what exactly the child has said, and then we go looking to see.
And how do you find out what
fits.
the child has said? You ask the parents, friends?
Yes, the parents and the friends, and sometimes the child, him or herself.
Right.
Some of them will talk to us, some won't. But we go sort of statement by statement and try to be clear about what the child has said.
And then you go to the village where the original person was?
Well, that's right. So we start by studying sort of the child side of the case, and then we go to the previous life side. And in the international cases, it might be to another village. Here, it might be to another state or another town, or by email with another family, and try to see what we can find out.
When I said village, because I tend to think of these things happening more in places where reincarnation is part of a religious faith, but you do get them from America.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the cases are easier to find in places with a belief in reincarnation because people talk about them, and then
they're not embarrassed
we hear about them. That's right. So, I mean, Ian Stevenson had associates in various countries who were on the lookout for cases. Now, with the internet, the American cases find us. So we get emails from parents all the time reporting what their children are saying. So it's used to people would criticize Ian's work and say that it was just a cultural phenomenon, and we now have proof that it's not just a cultural phenomenon because it happens here.
Tell us one of the best research cases, just to show what the possibilities are.
Well, one that I studied was a little boy named Ryan who started talking about a life in Hollywood when he was 4 years old, and he would beg and cry and beg his mother to take him to Hollywood.
Where did he live?
He was in Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
So eventually she got some books out of the public library about Hollywood to try to help him kind of process this. And they were looking through one of them one day, and they got to a picture from an old movie called Night After Night. And he pointed to one of the guys and said, "Hey, Mama, that's George. We did a picture together." And then he pointed to another person and said, "And that's me. I found me." Now, the first person he pointed to was George Raft, who was a well-known actor back in the day.
Famous, yeah.
But the other one he pointed to that he said he had been was an extra with no lines in the movie. So Ryan's mom wrote to me to see if I could help figure out who this person was. And as we were working on it, she was sending me emails sometimes on a daily basis with all these statements that Ryan was making. So we got documentation of everything he was saying. And then eventually, with the help of a Hollywood archivist, we were able to find out who this person was. This archivist went to the library of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, got all the materials on this movie Night After Night, and there was one shot that included him and gave his name, a guy named Marty Martin. And Ryan had described quite a life, which, to be honest, I felt was unlikely for an extra with no lines in a movie. But it fit Marty Martin's life. So Ryan said how he had danced in New York, and Marty Martin danced on Broadway. Ryan said that he then went and worked in the movies, which Marty Martin did, mostly working on dance in the movies. He said that he then worked at an agency, and Marty Martin started a successful talent agency. He described this life of going to Europe on ships and so forth, which Marty Martin did. He also said that the street address of his house had the word Rock or Mount in it, and Marty Martin lived on North Roxbury. And then also one time he said he didn't see why God would let you get to 61 and then come back again as a baby. And Marty Martin's death certificate actually said he was 59, but when I looked into it, I found census records and marriage listings and passenger lists that all gave ages, which meant, in fact, he was 61 when he died and not 59. So altogether, we were able to verify that over 50 of Ryan's statements matched Marty Martin's life. And Marty Martin was an obscure person who died in 1964, and then...
So there was no information anywhere about him until you started to dig.
Well, that's right, and now there is more on the internet because of this case, but at the time there was nothing on Marty Martin on the internet.
So, what conclusion do you have?
Well, what we can conclude from that case is that most conservatively we can say that Ryan had knowledge of this life in the past. Now, his experience of this knowledge was that it was memories of a life he experienced. And that's certainly the most straightforward explanation. But clearly we have very good evidence that he had knowledge of a life that it would have been impossible for him to have gained through some sort of ordinary means. So that's the kind of case that we are trying to explore. Can we rule out that the knowledge that fits, that there were no ordinary means where the child learned it, and in a case like this,
well, there can be no
sure
ordinary means.
No, absolutely
There
not.
has to be some kind of psi explanation somewhere along the line.
That's right. It certainly seems to be something psi or psychic, like you say, to explain it, because there's no way to explain it away.
Thank you.
He was 2 years old. He saw a lady on TV and he said, I was one of those when I was a girl. So I said, all right. When were you a girl? He said, before I came to you. This came out over a period of time. Before he came to us, he had been a girl. And he got married, and he married a man called George. And they'd had a baby, and George didn't like the baby. So she had taken herself and the child to a bridge and jumped off it and killed herself and the child.
My son was 2 years old, and he suddenly said, "Mummy, when I was an old man, I was very, very sad." And I asked him why. He said it was because his house had burnt down, and his 2 daughters had been standing at the bedroom window in their smocks, and they were burnt to death.
Around the world, thousands of children from different backgrounds and religions have described a life they have lived before. The belief in the survival of the soul is an ancient one, but the fact that these children talk about events which seem beyond their childhood experience is considered by some to be evidence of reincarnation.
Yes, we're a division within the Department of Psychiatric Medicine at the University of Virginia.
At the Division of Personality Studies in Charlottesville, Virginia, there are 2,700 documented cases of children who talk about a previous life. These children come from around the world: Southern Asia, West Africa, Europe, and the United States. Scientists at this Center of International Research are hoping to find proof of reincarnation, so they carefully investigate new cases as they emerge.
My son Harley was 3 years and 3 months old when I first heard him speak of something which indicates a prior life experience. It was on Halloween, 1997. I don't have a problem believing in reincarnation, though until Harley started telling me things about his other mama, I never really thought about it in any concrete way. I would like to ask him more about it, but I don't want to do so in a way that will suggest answers to him. Any suggestions? Sincerely, Pamela Pesco-Salido.
I'm in a town called Exeter, California, which has about 10,000 people, and I'm going to visit a mother and a little boy who has said some things about having lived before. We've got over 100 American cases in the files, and they tend to break down into 2 camps. They're the same family cases where the child remembers a deceased relative, and then there are the unsolved stranger cases like this one, where the child has made statements about a stranger that so far we've not been able to identify. The best case scenario is that